Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of my podcast, Is Breakfast Included? Now last week we spoke to my good friend Renee Rodriguez, who's a former tour caterer. On this week's episode, we speak to another good friend of mine, Mike Warren, aka Cowboy, aka Metal Mike, depending on who you ask. I just like to call him Mike, and I like to call him when I need help. We had a great conversation, we had lunch, we spent the day together, we nerded out on some gear, and he told me some great stories, and we kind of got into it, comparing of the paths we've taken, because Mike and I have very similar paths. We both started with the same artist, and we just kind of went from there. Anyway, I'll let him tell you all about it. Let's check it out.
I can't guarantee you I'm going to be great at it, but I'm honored.
That makes two of us.
I'm honored that you even asked, dude.
Well, all right. So tell me who you are, what you do, where you're from. All that good stuff.
My name is Michael Warren, formerly known as Metal Mike, currently also known as Cowboy, depending on what camp you met me through. Born and raised here in Dallas, Texas. Lived here my whole life. All of my family's here. And I am currently the guitar and bass tech, one of the guitar and bass techs for Breaking Benjamin.
Right on.
Yeah.
And what did you do before you were a guitar tech?
What I was doing right before I got into that was commercial electrical work. I worked for my dad. My dad owns a little contractor commercial electrical company here in Dallas, and so I was a construction worker, man. Tool belt, tools. Heat,
I think
sweat.
the answer I was expecting, I wanted you to say like, I wasn't the best goddamn guitar players in Dallas, Texas.
False.
That's what
I was the dude who showed up to fix your plug that didn't work. That's what I did. Had a light switch out, you might meet me.
Yeah, he's also a good guitar player. How did you get into guitar tech? How'd you get into this business?
100% Braxton Henry. Braxton Henry. Ironically, I don't know if we've actually talked about this. The way it happened for me was for years, I played in the band Jackknife, which is, a little, very screamy metalcore band here in Dallas. And we were working on our last record that ended up not ever getting finished before the band kind of dissipated. But I called Braxton up one day and was like, hey, I'm doing an instrumental track on the new Jackknife record. And I'm going to invite 3 or 4 of my favorite guitar players around Dallas just to come in and just to rip some solos, And I wanted it to be Braxton, and I wanted Alex from House Harkonnen, and I wanted Adam from Plastic Tongue.
Nanas, yeah.
Yeah, just like a couple of the dudes that I'm like, these dudes are in Dallas. And this was over a decade ago. But even back then, it was like, these dudes just were my favorite ripping guitar players. So Braxton's like, yeah, and I hadn't seen Braxton in a while because we had always done the Knife records with him, but we didn't do the last one that had come out with him. He was out touring, I think, with Drowning Pool at the time, front of house or something. Anyways, long story long, Braxton's like, dude, I would love to, man. That would be so awesome. I tell you what, let's meet up and have dinner. His wife at the time was one of the bar tenders up at Vickery Park on Knox Henderson. It's like, dude, let's just catch up. Let's go have dinner. You can give me this, back then. I literally gave him the CD of the track, I was like, yeah, dude, that'd be great. So we met up and had dinner, and we were talking and we were catching up, and he was telling me about touring, and he'd been doing it for some while, and he started working for Pat Green at some point for some years, and I remember telling him like, dude, that is just so cool, man. I'm working construction and playing in a band. And I'm like, dude, that is so cool. Like, I just think that would be such a neat thing to get into, man. And he kind of casually was like, dude, why didn't you let me know like forever ago? I could have been looking out for you this whole time. I was like, really? Oh man, I just think that would be so neat to like, be out and do guitars or be on the road and work for a band. And he's like, oh dude, yeah, like should have told me, man. I'll keep my eyes open for you. Like, oh, dude, that'd be great. Continued with our conversation, had dinner. He ended up playing on the song, which never came out. 2 weeks later, hey, man, we're looking for somebody to do some fill-in stuff this month with us with Pat Green. Would you want to do it? And that was it. It was literally and Broseph had Joseph had the gig at the time, and I want to say he was actually leaving because he was filling in for Drowning Pool at the time. I think he went and played bass and was filling in for Stevie.
Yeah.
So Pat Green, when they asked me to come in, it wasn't for a show. It was for like a month or 6 weeks or something.
Yeah.
And I came in, and I mean, that's how it started with me. So I owe.
It's funny. We have a very similar story of how we started.
Yeah. I mean,
I started with Pat Green.
Yeah. We started in the same place, but I owe Braxton Henry, I mean, I owe him that. You know, without Braxton bringing me into it, I'd probably still be, wiring up restaurants. It's like that's how it happened. And ironically enough, you are the second piece of that puzzle, because where it really started, my career really kind of started to take off, was when I started working for Three Doors Down, which is a gig that you got me.
No.
Which I'm serious. Like, you are the guy who kind of took me out of the Texas country scene and put me into that, that big rock and roll, shed touring scene. And it took off from there.
Yeah.
But I say all the time, like, well, Braxton Henry and Bernie Garrett. I mean,
oh man,
if it like you were the two dudes who gave me my break.
Yeah.
You
I
and
was
Braxton.
always happy that you flourished once you got out of this scene, which is not a bad scene to be in.
No.
It's like I tell everybody, like, I didn't even get you the gig. I just introduced you to the guy.
Yeah. No, you got me the gig. Once again, I ran into you in Deep Ellum one night. If you remember, we were at Curtain Club.
You were venting your frustration about not enough work, and I go, "Hey man,
that's it.
Some rando just emailed me. That someone referred me for this gig, and I turned it down."
Yeah.
If that rando's listening, Conrad, I don't mean to call you a rando, but I was like, who would refer me? And then so I turned it down out of sheer like, I'm not going to do this, but I told you about it. And then I emailed him, and the guy was, to this day, I've never met him, just through emails and texts, but he was so cool. He replied to me and he goes, "Hey man, send me his information."
Yeah.
And next thing you know, Jed's a millionaire.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's gold in them Nar Hills, right?
I know, right? It's funny you brought up Braxton because, well, I'll get off topic for a second, but Braxton, when I was with Pat, I remember we were going through Monitor Guys, and I remember telling our tour manager at the time, going, "Hey man, I know this really good sound guy, and he's really good, and he's toured with Drowning Pool and King's X." And Brad was like, "I don't know who those are," and I said, "No man," and I called Braxton and I said, "Hey, we do bus call at this bar on Greenville. You should come up there, and I'll introduce you to the tour manager." And I was green, man. This is my first gig, and I just thought that's how it worked. You just try and hook your friends up.
Yeah.
And Braxton comes out of, we were at Greenville Bar and Grill when it was still around, and he comes out of the bar next to it, and I go, "Hey, Brad, that's the guy." And Braxton's just covered in tattoos and sandals and a tank top, and Brad's like, "Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'll call you."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'll call you, man.
He came in. I remember it was his first gig was a gig in San Diego. We were doing whatever the baseball team is there. We were doing like after the game, and that was his first gig. And next thing you know, man, he's killing it, still killing it. Like, Braxton's one of the best audio engineers I know.
Oh, of course. That's what you say. He came in, and
I don't know if that's the proper terminology.
Oh, that's it.
I'm just a lowly backline guy.
Yeah, trust me, I get it.
I don't know what all those knobs do. But anyway, Braxton came in, and since you brought him up, since he was, and I love touring with him, man. I've been friends with Braxton for almost 30 years. Gosh. I've known him longer than I've known my son.
Wow.
And I like him a little more. Anyway.
Yeah. God.
Keep going.
I was going to say, how long? Let's see. So I probably met Braxton so maybe not quite 30 years, but I think I first ran into him when Jack Knife would play Galaxy Club. And then he ended up starting to do our records. I probably met Braxton around 2000 or 2001.
I met Braxton. This is how long I known him. It was a club called the 21st Amendment. And when he started doing front of house, I remember him reading about sound while running
Man.
sound.
Yeah.
And his first gig was some fucking crazy all-day festival, and he was like up there, and then he looked up, and the mains had fallen over or something, and he had to run.
Just thrown to the wolves,
Yeah.
right? Poor Brax.
But anyway,
Yep.
by the way, that was a joke about me liking Braxton more than my kid.
Disclaimer.
So yeah, after that, Three Doors Down, you went to Three Doors Down after Pat Green, and what happened there, man?
Man, just a lot of touring and a lot of good times, you know, and also my first taste of international travel too, which is, love the Texas scene. That's great. But you don't find yourself going to the UK and Germany and Japan and all these cool places.
I know, man. That was to me, I couldn't believe it. I was doing it,
Yeah. You find yourself like, I'm just this like nerdy metal kid from Dallas. What am I doing in Switzerland? It's like, how did that happen? But did the Three Doors thing. I loved that camp, great people. And, like I said, that's when it just, you kind of get into that world and you start seeing how small it is. So I say all the time, there's only like 5 production managers in all of rock and roll,
right.
And like 7 TMs.
Yeah.
And you meet one of those guys and you just kind of work all the time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, how it kind of happened. And, you start making connections, bands and opening tour. It just spirals. And when Three Doors, we had finished their like greatest hits album cycle. And then we did a bunch of acoustic touring. And then they kind of pulled everybody in and just said, hey, we're going to take a year off, maybe a little more, to do a record. Thanks for everything. It's kind of over. And we hope when we start back up, we hope all you, like, they were so sweet and so nice, but, they just kind of let you know it's over.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just didn't miss a beat. I went straight from there and right into In This Moment. The drum tech from Three Doors Down, Morgan, introduced me to a guy named Dan Moyce, who was a production manager of In This Moment. And it just, once again, it just spirals. And, just never looked back. But I love that Three Door. I love that whole camp. And man, I just had so much fun with Conrad and Norm. And, there's some dudes on that crew. Man, we'll still text sometimes. Like, I just had some of the best times of my life with you guys.
Yeah, Conrad he always seemed like a nice guy. I unfortunately, I've never met him, but we talked a little bit, via text and through social media, but he always seemed like a nice guy.
Yeah. He's the best. He's the perfect blend. I think he's like the perfect blend of what you want in a production manager. He knows his stuff and he runs a tight shift, but he's also really stern. And when you come in, he's going to tell you like, here's some rules that I want, always wear your radio until the bus rolls. I don't care if you're done, showered, don't ever do this. Always do this. He asks a couple of simple things from you. And if you know your gig and you follow the things and you do the things he's kind of asks, like they're kind of rules, it's all good, and he's just so much day off, like, not on the nights on the bus. He loves to put on like the VH1, like classic metal stuff, the Metal Mania, and he's just so much fun and such a great dude. But also he will just get in your ass. You know what I mean? But he does it in that like where it doesn't hurt your feelings. The dad like, hey, not mad. I'm just disappointed because I told you what I expected from you. And he's this perfect blend of what you really want. And a guy who runs his crew really tight and really pro will also discipline and call you out if you're being an idiot. But he's also your best friend.
Yeah.
It's a real weird, because some production managers are just militant and
they're one or the other.
On a day off, you don't really even want to hang out with them because they're just that. And then other ones are like almost not militant enough, and they're just one of the boys. And I like when you get a dude who runs it tight and gets it done well and keeps his crew really streamlined and professional, but also is the kind of guy like you want to go have lunch with him on a day off. He's your boy too. So I always loved working for Conrad. We text all the time like, man, I miss you, man. I hope you're well.
Man. So that was with Three Doors, and then you went to In This Moment. After In This Moment, what did you do?
Then it was Seven Dust. And then for a while there was a couple of us who were doing Sum 41 and Seven. In 2016, I had this year where I was doing Seven Dust and Sum 41. And it was beautiful, right? It was the kind of calendar you couldn't dream of having as a tech, where literally
one would stop touring, the other one would start. Yeah.
I mean, it literally was just, it's like it's like Dust and Sum got together and we're like, let's plan out our year to where we keep these crew guys just working all year. Mm. So I was doing the Dust and Sum 41. And then from Sum 41, I left to go to Breaking Benjamin when they had an opening. And a couple of really good buddies of mine had started working for that band. And and I've been there ever since. This September will be 5 years that I've been full-time with Breaking.
That's you dig it.
That's home base for me, man. Yeah, those dudes have been so good to me. And the camp is great. And the TM is a guy I've toured with in other bands. And we're just all such, tech say all the time, like, man, we're family, but like we really are, and we're taken care of out there. And God, and the two dudes I specifically work for, Aaron, the bass player, and Jason, the guitar player, one of the guitar players, have just become we've all just become so close. And I say it all the time, like a lot of times somebody is the artist you take care of.
Yeah.
And you also happen to be like good friends or pals. With those dudes, it's really, especially in the last couple of years, it's kind of flipped. And they're like my dear, dear friends who I also happen to take care of on the road. You know what I mean? It's like their families and their kids, we're all friends, and that's how that's become,
Right on.
Those are my good buds who I just also happen to take care of them when they're touring.
A few years ago with Breaking Benjamin, the guy you look after, I believe, was Jason. Having a baby.
Yeah.
And something fell in your lap where you had to play these shows in these big venues.
Yeah. Well,
how was that? How was that stepping into his shoes, into those shoes, and as a guitar player who's in a band, like finally playing for the sold out arena?
Dude, it was whatever and I've said this before, but whatever you think it was, I mean, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in a Motley Crue video, because we're products of the you see, a kid watching MTV back when MTV played music, and the Bon Jovi videos, and to be up there in the pyro and the cryo and the arena, and I mean, yeah, you feel like it's insane, dude. It was a dream come true. The very first show was Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, and at the very end of it, my family was up there. Ben always brings a bunch of the VIP people and a bunch of people up for the last song, Diary of Jane. So they're always behind the band, standing on stage. And I had my aunts, my Aunt Debbie and Aunt Pat had flown out. So I had two of my dearest family members behind me. I'm like sort of crying a little bit. You get choked up. I mean, it's like that, man, I know I'm just filling in, but there's that moment where you kind of feel like, man, all my dreams have come true. I'm so happy, and my family was there to experience it. And,
right on, man.
It was great. It was great. And I definitely, I wasn't in a position where I had to do it, because Jason wanted to be there for the birth of his daughter. And so that I was filling in for him in January, and they had asked me in October at the end of our last tour for the year if I was interested in doing it, so there was plenty of room to prepare and learn the stuff. And I had a couple FaceTime ones with Jason where I'd ask him about a chord that I couldn't really hear, didn't know what he was doing or something. And he was extremely helpful. And, basically, man, on the backside of that though, it's when Jason and I's working relationship really went next level. You know what I mean? Because dude, I just knew. I mean, obviously I knew all his switches and I knew, but now
you had been in his shoes.
That's right. Yeah. I had been in his shoes, and there were some things on the pedal board that I went ahead and put some glow tape on, and I'm like, yeah, no, dude, that's hard to see. I get it up there now. Like, and he and I have just been so close ever since, and
I remember you used to call me from the road and you would say like, Hey, my days off, I just spend in a hotel room tinkering with this rig, like tweaking this rig to make it sound as best as it can.
Yeah, oftentimes, and I'm always okay with that. A lot of guitar techs that they don't like that, and they the day off is their day, and I understand that. And I'm not knocking that. I mean, I get it, but see, Jason is also the type where and I'm kind of the same way too. It's that tone chaser thing.
Yeah,
we're not a set it and forget it. Every tour, we're doing something in the rig, pulling something out, adding a new something here, trying this, whatever it may be. New guitars all the time. So he's always kind of asking me to do something, but he's really, really cool about not expecting it now, So a lot of times he'll come to me and say, hey, I was thinking about what if we took this Strat and we put this pickup in it, and what if we did this, or what if in the Fractal we try to patch where we tried this and this and that, and I'll just be like, hey man, yeah, no problem. Do you mind if I do that, work on that guitar on the next day off in the hotel? Yeah, no problem, dude. He's like the epitome of like, dude, yeah, I know you're busy, man. I just whenever, and not everybody's like that, but to me, if it comes down to adding extra work on a guitar, whether it be 2 hours in your normal workday, where you've also got all your other restrings, and I also have a bass player and a bass rig, you have it can crowd up your workday, or like doing it in your hotel on a day off with a movie on, relaxing,
walking away from it.
Take a break and go have dinner with the boys, and no pressure to like, I need to get this guitar ripped apart and put back together because line checks in an hour and a half. I hate doing that, and anything I do, I also want him to have it in his hands before we do it live. I never want to do anything during the day and then hand it to him for the first time as he goes out to play. Like, and he's always so cool about it. So I will tend to just go like, yeah, dude, I'm happy to do that. You mind if I do it next day off? Yeah, no problem, dude. So I do tend to tinker like in the hotel room like quite a bit on gear on days off, which I prefer,
Getting back to you filling in for him, how many shows did you fill in for him for?
I believe it was 7.
7.
It was 7 shows, and I think it was 2 weeks. Something like that, yeah. In the U.S., and it ended up being longer than it could have had to have been, because we went up into Canada because we didn't know. So the whole thing was, and I really didn't even talk about it until it was like show day 1.
Yeah,
I put a picture on social media. I was like, so this is what's happening.
You texted me that afternoon that you were going to play your first show.
because nobody knew when his daughter would be born. So I was in place to take care of as many shows as needed for him to be there for the birth of his daughter, right? Yeah. And so, or she could have been born early and I didn't need to fill in at all. So I didn't want to make some like, dude, guess what I'm doing? And I was like learning all these songs, and it was hard not to like, you'll never, like, I'm learning BB songs because I might play guitar for him with, on tour with Avenged Sevenfold in arenas. Holy hell. And then it not happen. You're like, oh yeah, it blah, 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 blah. So, but we started, and then we went into Canada, and like right before we went in, that's when, she was born, his daughter was born. And so it was like, well, I'll just come back when you guys get back into the States. He didn't want to deal with, it was like, so I got an extra like 2 or 3 shows out of it because we were in Canada.
Right on. I know people ask me all the time, and there's a lot of misconception about touring. I think you and I have had this conversation that, and people, I think your answer is probably going to be different. What's the biggest misconception about what we do? When people come to you and ask you like, oh, I bet it's great going here. And, I know that I've had someone think that I just hang out all day and the show happens by, and I just need to show up for the show. And, you just hand him his guitar, right?
Yeah.
That's what I do.
All you do is tune guitars.
So what's the biggest misconception from people that about what you do on the road?
Two things come to mind there real quick. The first one, I think, is that, you get to a point where you're quote unquote, like traveling the world for a living, and people think you've seen everything.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, I've been everywhere and really seen nothing. I mean, there's some days off where you might go sightseeing or hit a castle. Like, I mean, I see stages and buses. You don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You go to all these places, but like, oh, you've been here. Did you go to the whatever? It's like, no, we loaded in and we loaded out. And the next morning I was gone. I wasn't even there anymore. Like
I went to the Chili's at the Atlanta airport.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I did.
You go all over the places, and depending on how strenuous the show schedule is, like, yeah, I've been to all these, but haven't really seen a lot of it.
Yeah.
You've just been there. But
Yeah.
it's a bus and a dressing room and a stage, a shower, back to the bus, and a new city. Like,
If you're lucky.
yeah, if you're lucky, yeah. But no, I think there's a misconception that people think that you've been to every landmark and every tourist attraction and every place. And you're like, I mean, I just haven't, I don't have time. We work sometime like 15-hour workday.
Yeah.
And then I just want to get on the bus and go to bed because
And sometimes when you do have time, you just want to chill.
Yeah. And there's literally times where like a group of the crew, like, hey, we're going to go see this on the day off. I'm like, man,
All right. Yeah.
I'm like watching a movie in bed and in the hotel. And I'm in, man. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm tired. So I think there's a misconception that people think we've,
What's the other one?
that people think that it's just like sex, drugs, and rock and roll out there. It's a party, right?
Yeah.
That as technicians, it's like, oh, we just wrangle girls and drink beer. And
at one point it was. At one point it was, but
I think it's a stigma in the business. Like, oh, you're a roadie, right? Well, you just like, drink and crush rails and pick up chicks for the rock stars. It's like, no, actually, like,
crush rails.
Yeah. Crush rails?
Yeah, what is that?
Doing cocaine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just crushing rails.
Okay.
But I think everything, everything is also so technical these days, like I think a lot of what we do, people don't understand, like, oh yeah, on your guitar rig, I update the firmware on my guitar rig, there's a lot of technical stuff there, and we work long days, and it's not that. It's not party and booze and drugs and girls, and it's just not that, And like a crew room, it's not full of booze and hot chicks. It's like a bunch of dudes in all black on their cell phones napping on the couch,
right?
Like looking at their phones. Like it's very chill and it's very professional.
Yeah.
People think it's like, once again, everyone thinks you basically live in a Motley Crue video.
Yeah.
And that's not.
And you and I came into this late in our, we aren't like, some cats I meet have been doing it since their teens, and they're in their 50s and 60s. So they went through all that. But you and I came into this late where, technology was moving forward. And so, I agree with you there.
Yeah. But people think we just party.
Man,
like,
I tell people, I met somebody a long time ago, and he was telling me, like, he explained the whole term roadie to me, because when I started, I was like, no, I'm a guitar tech. And then once we talked, and he made me see I like to be called a roadie. I tell people I'm a roadie. If it's somebody, that I'm a guitar tech. If I don't like them and they're like, oh, is it like being a roadie? It's like, I'm a guitar tech.
Yeah.
Shut the
hell up. We prefer,
but I'm a roadie, man.
We
like,
prefer
this is what we do. I'm a fucking carny.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
And I wouldn't, I decided to talk to techs for these next few episodes because people ask me all the time, and there were times in my life, or since I've been doing this, that I can't have conversations with regular friends. Mm-hmm. Like I can talk to you and say, and I think I've told a few people this, but it sounds like I'm a douchebag. Like, I'll talk to you and you're like, oh, what were you doing? I was like, dude, I just flew back from London. We did a one-off in London and I just got back this morning. And that sounds so pretentious and so douchey when you tell somebody who works a regular 9-to-5 job. And, it's not that I always feel bad. So when somebody asks me like, "What do you do?" I was like, "I tune guitars."
Yeah.
You know, like
Just
that's what
downplay it a
that's
little
what I
bit.
do. I tune guitars
Yeah.
and I hand them the guitar. I'm that guy.
Yeah.
But so when people ask me like, "What do you do?" I just tell them I tune guitars, and I wanted to talk to other techs for you guys to tell what how do you answer these questions? Like, what do you do? What are you? How do you spend your time off? So thanks for doing this.
Yeah, man.
Do you think other than play guitar, other than being a tech, because we both fell into this accidentally.
Yeah.
By complete accident, and it's coincidence we both fell into it with the same artist.
I know, yeah. Couple kids playing in metal bands out of Deep Ellum, right?
Yeah, that leads into my next thing, man. Did you ever think you would be doing this, or did you think, is there ever a time you wanted to do anything else? Then I know that I tell people I decided there was a moment in my life when I was a kid, and I said, I don't need to play on stage. I just want to be in the music business.
Yeah.
And that's, I work towards it, but like I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. Like I could be a guitar tech the rest of my life. / bass tech is what I'm known as, a bass tech.
Sure.
But I could do that, if I checked out tomorrow, I'm happy. So how do you feel? Is there ever anything you wanted to do? Are you content doing this?
Oh, I'm super content doing this, like we had previously talked about at lunch, like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to be a guitar tech until I'm an old man. I always like to say, I'm going to rock and roll until I can't rock or roll anymore. Like that's what I'm committed, dude. Like I am a professional guitar tech, and that's what I do. I take it very serious, and it's a career. I mean, I love it. I say all the time, like I feel like it's like hitting the job lotto. Like
I know, right?
Because there's no school or degree or there's no path that you're going to figure out in high school that leads you into doing what we do. You just kind of trip up and luck into it. And I'm forever grateful for that because, if not today, I would probably be outside sweating on a job site somewhere with a tool bag on, I love it. It's,
and like you said about crews, like you get with the right crew, the right thing, and you don't want to leave.
You don't,
you've kind of, so it's like you're putting in your time with one gig.
Yeah. Yeah. I never saw myself, going back to what you were saying, like being like, I was the epitome of the chasing it. Like I wanted to be a rock star. Yeah. I wanted to be in the band, and I was played in my band for years and years. And it was that timing thing too, where, I had just struggled, and you're just chasing it, and you're touring the van and trailer, things come and go, blah, 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 you're playing. But once my eyes were open to the fact, and it was a timing thing too, where my band was just kind of falling apart, and it was over. And then you start realizing, it was shown to me, like, you can make a living in the music industry, a good living, and tour and get and do that, but obviously not be in the band. And I just fell in love with it. But it was definitely not something to me where, like when I was in high school or even in my early 20s, like I'm going to be a tech or a crew guy one day. I always wanted a tech, you know what I mean? But I remember just kind of making that decision too, Bernie. Like, I've been playing in bands since I was, 16 years old, and I don't even remember how this was, maybe, 25 at some point, and just going like, I'm just, I'm done. Maybe I was a little older, 26, 27. Like, I think I'm just done. I gave it my best. I chased it. Maybe we got close and it just didn't happen. And I think I just was like, I think I want to be a guitar tech. This is what I want to do. Yeah. And, and not be, because there's some of the guitar techs who are kind of out on the road just to try to give people which there's a big part of that just kind of annoys me for some reason. Like, dude, we're professionals out here. Stop. Okay. We all have little bands or jam groups. Like, don't give those guys your,
right.
Like, don't be a guitar tech to try to become a guitar player and promote yourself. The all self-promoting crew guy. Hey, whatever. I'm not going to go too into that, but that was never me. Yeah. I made that decision at one point. Like, I'm done trying to like be in a band. I'm done chasing that thing, and I'm ready to to do this because I saw all the opportunity and the potential for the travel, to make a living, to quit my day job, to be in that industry. And I just decided that, yeah, I want to be a professional guitar tech.
Right on, man.
So I made that decision, but it was never something that I thought I would end up doing when I was young,
Me either. I never thought I'd see myself doing this. I had other things I wanted to do, but I'm perfectly 100% happy
Absolutely
with what I do. Like
Yep.
I always, before this last year when everyone was out of work, my thing was when people would ask me, I'd tell them like there's a lot of people without work and the people with work hate their jobs. Like I have a job and I love my job.
Love it. Yeah.
And I love going to see places that I've never been. And I love going to see places that I've been a million times.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't get tired of that.
Yeah.
I don't get tired of being on a bus or in a hotel or on an airplane.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cats that do it that do get tired, and that's their thing. And there's nothing, can't hate them for it. But
yeah, that's
I
right.
don't.
Because it's not for everybody.
No, I don't get tired of it.
It can, for certain personality types or certain people, it can really wear them down. It's, the lifestyle and the travel, it's definitely not for everybody.
Yeah.
But it's for me.
Yeah, it is. I've done a lot of shitty things in my life, but not this one. The name of this podcast is called Is Breakfast Included? Now, I know we just had some great tacos for lunch,
we did.
But if we were having breakfast, what would you have?
Well, it depends on where it's at.
You're one of those answers.
It's one. I mean, this is a loaded, four-sided question.
Pretend we were at a place where
everything is there.
Yeah,
it's real simple. My favorite breakfast: pancake or waffles. Doesn't matter which, but I like smothering them with peanut butter and then syrup and bacon on the side. That's what I'm gonna have for breakfast. There's something about pancakes or waffles. Pick your poison there. But when you put peanut butter on it and then maple syrup, man, that's just my favorite. That's my favorite breakfast, And to the point where, like, if my bass player Aaron on the road, he's an early riser, and so he and I will usually have coffee and breakfast in the morning and catering, or on the coffee on the bus and chat, and we'll go have breakfast. And he'll text me sometimes if he gets there before I do, like, oh boy, you got pancakes and peanut butter today. Like I'm double timing it. I'm on my way, dude. That's my favorite breakfast. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Because ultimately it's about the peanut butter, the relationship between the peanut butter and the maple syrup. Mm-hmm. So the pancake or the waffle is just, it's just a canvas to get it there. Like it doesn't matter. Because
I'm a pancake guy myself. For everyone that has been wondering.
Yeah.
Pancakes with pancakes.
Yeah.
That's what I like for breakfast.
Generally going to go with the pancakes. Yeah. But I will say the peanut butter spreads on a waffle a lot better. You got to be careful. Can tend to tear a pancake just right up. Just start tearing them up trying to spread the peanut butter. The waffles, it's a little more equipped for a spread,
Before I let you go, have you ever had a Spinal Tap moment?
Oh. Yeah.
The reason I asked the breakfast question before the last question is I would have forgot because all I'm thinking about is when I leave here, I'm going to go to that taco place and get some tacos to go.
Yeah. Which is,
I can't get my mind off it, but that's why I asked you the food question because I was going to forget it.
Yeah. Which is Milagro Tacos here
in Dallas, Texas.
It's here in Trinity Grove's section.
3 days old.
3 days
and
old.
Mike has eaten there
3 days.
3 days.
It's like they're gonna eventually be like, "Hey, Mike, how are you today?"
Hey, Miguel.
They're really, really good. It's called Milagro Tacos, just right here in Trinity Groves. If any of the Dallas listeners want a new taco place, it's pretty delicious.
Yeah,
right.
It's the place to go.
Yeah.
Spinal Tap moment. You ever had one?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all do, the one that I always think maybe isn't directly on me, but this was quite recently, actually. And you can find this on YouTube under Chevelle Magic Trick.
Uh-huh.
All right. So with with breaking, we have a kabuki that drops, a downstage kabuki, a solid white one that just drops to cover our changeover, right? The band comes out and starts behind it, and then that kabuki eventually drops and reveals the band. Nothing new, pretty standard fare for arena or shed touring, it's standard stuff. On 2019, on our headliner, right? It was 3 Days Grace, Chevelle, and Breaking Band. We're out doing sheds. Of course, this happens at the LA show. Outside of LA, for some reason, always LA, right?
Yeah.
When everybody important is there is when things always go Spinal Tap on you.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there and in Guitar World, and this is maybe 2 or 3 songs before the end of their set. So before our changeover, their direct support. So I'm in Guitar World. We're just another day on the road, right? And I know now that I guess they had talked about maybe it was too windy to use the kabuki for changeover, so we weren't going to use it. And I think one of the lighting techs at the time was like, "Oh, well, I'll go ahead and unplug it and start packing up the whole kabuki thing. Like we're just going to leave it up there." Well, the kabuki drops have these magnetized things that hold them, because it also they press a button and it drops during the band's first song to reveal them.
Yeah.
Well, they're magnets that are held together electrically, right? So, hey, efficiency, right? All about the out. Lighting tech goes over to start packing up the kabuki rack and pulls the power. And I'm sitting there just in my Guitar World, doing whatever I do, doing some pre-tuning, whatever. And that kabuki drops on top of Chevelle, right in the middle. I mean, they're like, and it really, like, on their singer, Pete, it falls on him, dude. And I mean, middle of the song, singing, all you just, and you hear that guitar hit the ground sound, just kablang, full PA, 20,000 people. I mean, we just dropped the white sheet on this entire band in the middle of their song, and it was just that Spinal Tap thing, right? You always think, the little stone hinges or dude getting trapped inside the thing and they've got the blowtorch on it, right? And like, here's, Pete from Chevelle, and you see him stand up and the kabuki's on. It's like a little ghost in there, right? You just see this like dude trying to find his way out of this massive white kabuki that has now covered him, the band, the stage. They're all underneath, dude. It was.
Were they cool about it afterwards, or?
They were really, really cool about it. Yeah. I think, I mean, I can imagine he probably wasn't super stoked about it, especially maybe like the hour or two after. I didn't hear anything to confirm or deny that. But the next day, I think our camp bought them some tequila and stuff for there was a gift package that was sent, and they were super cool. And I feel like some bands might have even got mad and dropped off the tour or something. So those Chevelle dudes I don't know if you've ever met them, but
no, man, they're
super nice. Super
I am
sweet.
Surprisingly, I'm familiar with I know who they are, but I don't know. It's like two different worlds from where I am and the rock guys. Yeah. I say the rock guys.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until 2019 when I did a gig and I met a bunch of rock guys, and then that introduced me. Because I don't know, for some reason, I know a lot of the British guys.
Yeah.
The British techs is what I cross paths with more.
Yeah. Now they're real nice dudes. It did not cause like a big disruption in the tour. Didn't make anything weird the next day. It was, but it's funny because, like I said, that kind of thing's never going to happen in like Lincoln, Nebraska. It's going to be LA,
New York,
London, New York, anywhere where like management and label and booking and just all the people.
It's got to be a flawless show.
That's right. The label's out tonight and just everybody is there. And so that might be, I think, like I said, maybe not directly to my person, but being on tour and just that Spinal Tap.
You were guilty by association.
That's right. Like, oh, my camp just dropped the kabuki on the band, and And like I said, it's available on YouTube for all to see.
I'm gonna check that out.
It's called
before I
Chevelle
leave.
Magic Trick.
Right on.
It just
check it out.
drops right on him, dude.
Well, man, thanks for doing this,
Man,
Mike.
Bernie, thanks for having me. I'm honored, man. I'm honored. Seriously. I'm so proud of you doing this whole thing, and it's super cool. And, you know, I'm honored that you even asked me to do it because, you know, we're talking about, yeah, you had Rudy Sarzo on the show the other day. Like, why would you want me, dude? You got Sarzo lined up. Come on now.
Oh, but no, man, I wanted to talk to, like I said, I get asked a lot of questions. I wanted to talk to other techs or people in behind the scenes to kind of give, give their view on why they do it. If they do anything else, that kind of shit,
I do it because I love it and couldn't imagine doing anything else at this point.
Cool.
Right.
All right, man. Right on. Mike Warren, Metal Mike. You can find him on Instagram at Cowboy4 the letter D2. I don't know if he's going to like me giving out his Instagram, but anyway, go check him out. He posts a lot of cool pictures from the road. All right, guys, I'm done. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next week.